Hi everybody, how's it going? My name's Ali and I am a curatorial assistant at the Castle Kilbride Archives. I'm going to be walking you through a bit of a day in my life today, but before we get too far into that, I'm just going to give you a bit of information about me. So this curatorial assistant job is a summer position through the Young Canada Works grant, but I have been working at Castle Kilbride over the past 2 years and have loved every second of it. It's been a wonderful position and I'm really enjoying this summer to delve deep into the archives and really get to know that world. Outside of Castle Kilbride, I'm an undergrad student at Carleton University up in Ottawa. So there I'm studying history and political science as a dual major, which fits perfectly for this archive since it is half municipal government and half museum, so it's a really great fit for me. So hopefully you find this video interesting. I know I love my work here and I'm excited to share that with you today. So one of the biggest things that I do here in my role at Castle Kilbride is called accessioning. Basically, that's a fancy archive word that means taking items that people have donated and putting them into our databases. So for example, I've got this old edition of the Canadian Sportsman, which is a newspaper, here. So this one is from December 21st, 1950, which means that it's 71 years old, so it's held up pretty well over the 71 years. This edition here contains specific information on the New Hamburg racetracks at the time, which were quite a big deal in the 40s and 50s. So since it does contain relevant information to our township, we will put it into our archives. So the first step of that is to assign it an object ID, which is a specific combination of letters and numbers that all mean specific things and tell us a bit about this object. That object ID is going to be specific to this exact newspaper and that only. So every single item that we have in our archives has a unique object ID. So for this one, their object ID is X2016-24423. So all of those numbers mean different things in the archival world, and all of those numbers are going to go into our database on the computer. So that's part of my job, is taking these items and putting them into our database, filling that database with descriptions about the condition of the object. So if you see here, it's got a small tear on the front, so I'll make sure to note that. Different details about what the article about New Hamburg is talking about, and all sorts of things like that. So I'll go through the database and describe all of that in my work. So in my job as a curatorial assistant so far this summer, I'm about 1.5 months into the term, and I have accessioned over 500 objects so far, so that's a lot of object IDs. That's a lot of working with our databases. So that's a huge part of my role here at Castle Kilbride. Another big part of my role at the castle is scanning our artifacts into our database. So having those exact images is really important for when we're trying to identify specific pieces or artifacts in our collection. So that's another big part of my job here. So I've got my flatbed scanner right beside my workspace here. So say I am scanning that same edition of the Canadian Sportsman, what I would do is I would put it onto the flatbed, and I would scan it through, and then I would add that into our archives. So having that exact image of exactly what we're talking about really does help us identify different objects in our collection and be able to match up those physical objects, track their condition. If they're wearing and tearing in our collection, we'll be able to note that quickly if we have that exact scan of the object. So my absolute favorite thing that I get to do in my role here at Castle Kilbride is called rehousing items. So artifacts and documents will come to us in a lot of different conditions, and it's part of our job here to make sure that they're kept safe and that they're kept protected from any further damage. So that means putting them in a condition where they won't be damaged further in our collection. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about this. It depends on the item itself, and as I'm working with mostly paper, it's a lot of plastic sleeves and file folders. So I've got a couple of examples here that I can show you of different ways that we protect these items. So if we've got small pieces of paper here, so right now I'm holding up a example of 3 fall fair tickets from the 1927 fall fair. These would have been prize tickets, first, second, and third, with the winners' names written on it. So these are quite small and they're quite sturdy pieces of paper, so what we'll do is we'll put them together in a file of plastic. This is acid-free, that way it won't corrode these items further, so that just keeps them safe from any water damage or anything like that would occur. You can see with our good old Canadian Sportsman magazine that has followed us through this video, that's now being kept in a file of plastic. So again, that keeps it from any wear and tear, any sort of rubbing that would occur with other documents, and make sure that that's safe from any sort of damage that we could have in that archive. And then if we have really, really old photos that are very large and that we want to be sure to protect, what we'll do is we'll actually keep it in some acid-free tissue paper. So got that example here. That would have been an old photo of a group of men in a sort of society. I've got another one right here that I can actually show you. So here we've got this really gorgeous old photo of the New Hamburg Agricultural Society, which would have been taken in the Victorian era. You can see them all there. That's a really cool piece for us to be able to have a photo of all these folks together. So we want to keep that safe in our acid-free paper. We wrap it up all specifically, and that will keep it safe in our collection from any sort of dust or any sort of rubbing or any sort of damage that it could face in our possession. So that's another big part of my job here at Castle Kilbride, and I love being able to protect these objects from any further wear or tear. Alright, so throughout the course of this video, you've been able to catch a glimpse into what goes on in the life of a curatorial assistant at Castle Kilbride. There's plenty of other projects that we work on that didn't feature in this video, so every day as a curatorial assistant is a little bit different. I could be accessioning and scanning one day, I could be filming this video another day. So there's no one day that is totally all-encompassing in the life of a curatorial assistant here, but I hope that you were able to catch a little glimpse as to what's going on these days behind the scenes at Castle Kilbride. There will be more similar videos coming up shortly, so I have other coworkers that are working on similar projects to this right now. So feel free to stay tuned for that, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop those in the comment box down below and we'll answer them as best as we can. So thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye!